should we go and give a reference, a waseela? Should we make somebody a waseela in making dua? Somebody, a buzurg, a wali, a sahabi, should we mention them and say that, or should we ask them to make dua for us? Well, the correct thing to do over here is that we can give a reference, or we can use an wali of Allah, or an awliya, or the sulaha, or the sahaba ikram radiyallahu ajma'in as a reference in our dua, such as to say that, Ya Allah, he is a beloved person of yours, and for the love that I have in my heart for him, I ask you to help me in this matter. So you can give a reference of him, but you still ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can make a reference to him, and if you have visited a grave of some wali, you can say that, Ya Allah, I just did some isale sawab for a person whom you have loved. If that has been of any value to you, Ya Allah, I ask you for this in return. Whom do you ask? You ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that for the love that I have for a person whom you loved, Ya Allah, I ask you for this. Right? Or that, Ya Allah, I just did a salih sawab. If that is of any value in your sight, Ya Allah, please did that. Another way of asking dua is to give Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a reference to any good deed that you have done in past. And this too is established from Hadeeth, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam once told Sahaba ikram radhiyallahu ajma'in about 3 men who were traveling, and suddenly it started raining a lot, so they decided to take refuge in a cave. Once they went in that cave, a landslide happened, and one of the rocks fell at the door of the cave, and suddenly the cave was now sealed. So they said that, all right, let us now recall any good deed that we have done, and then ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that to move the stone if that deed was acceptable to them. One by one, each of those men, he gave an example. The first man gave an Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, Ya Allah, once my mother asked me, I had come back home after the whole day, and parents wanted a glass of milk, and I stood all night holding the glass for them, because by the time I reached with the glass, they had already slept. And then I stood, without meeting my family or anything, I just stood there with the glass of milk, and then after they woke up, I gave it to them. If in your sight that was of any value, the same words that I was using earlier, Ya Allah, please move this stone, allow our cave to be opened up. And when he did that, this stone moved slightly, but not completely. Then the next one made the dua. He gave the reference of the fact that he had an opportunity to do the zina, but he got reminded of Allah and he did not do zina. So he said that, Ya Allah, I stopped out of my fear for you, and if that was of any value to you, Ya Allah, please open this. And the third one gave an example of that there was somebody who he had done business with, and then that person went away, and later on when he came back, whatever share that was profit they had gained from that business, he gave it all to him. He didn't keep anything, and he said, Ya Allah, if that is of any value to you, please open this. And the stone completely moved and they came out. So this is a perfect example that if we are ever in a situation where personally I can't recall any good that I've done so well that I should be worthy of presenting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but perhaps there is within ourselves, if we really look for that, there's one thing that I've done truly for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we can present to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that, Ya Allah, if that deed of mine which was done purely out of sincerity for you, if it's acceptable for you, Ya Allah, please allow this to happen. So this is one way of asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala